and members of the press club are allowed to present questions. Mayor Broome started her political career as a Metro Council person and then was elected to the Louisiana House, the Louisiana Senate, served as Speaker Pro Tem and as President Pro Tem of the Senate. In 2016, she was elected mayor, defeating Bodie White, and then in 2020, she won re-election in a runoff 58-42% win over Steve Carter, the late Steve Carter. She started her career as a journalist, so she's no stranger to microphones, and she is here to tell us about the state of the city, and then we'll have some questions, and let's get rolling. Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome.
Thank you, Jim, and good afternoon to everyone. It's so great to see so many people out today. It's been a while since I've been here at the Press Club, but I am certainly delighted to be here. You know, our media does play a very integral role in the community's perception of really what is happening in Baton Rouge. And so we always welcome fair and objective reporting. Also, it's certainly vital that we leverage the opportunities to spread the hope that often goes unnoticed. It has been a victorious week for Baton Rouge and our state. This weekend, we saw 200,000 football fans gather at LSU for a historic moment that was bigger than a football game. From the unified band performance boasting love for Baton Rouge that just took me over the top, to the work that both universities are doing beyond this weekend, like the recently signed A&M agenda, committing both schools to a greater level of collaboration and partnership over at least the next 5 years. This weekend was another testament to what collective impact looks like when we work together around a shared or common goal. Today, however, I am going to focus on the common goal of public safety for Baton Rouge, or what I have been recognizing as community safety. You may be wondering, what's the difference? Well, legal scholars define public safety as the protection of the general public, and they reference groups like police officers and firefighters as public safety officers. On the other hand, the psychologist Abraham Maslow used a much broader definition of safety in his famous hierarchy of human needs. He said that one of the most fundamental needs that we have is safety. This includes not only physical safety, but also security of our health, money, belongings, jobs, and families. Community safety relates to quality of life and being able to pursue and obtain the fullest benefits from your domestic, social, and economic lives. Over the last 6 years, City Parish has been navigating new systems and practices that proactively mitigate and eradicate root causes to challenges that we face in Baton Rouge. Now, these challenges and solutions that I'm going to share with you today are not unique to just Baton Rouge. I have the privilege of being connected to resources like the National League of Cities, U.S. Conference of Mayors, and the Biden administration's Community Violence Intervention Collaborative, just to name a few. One thing is clear. Cities across the country are focused on investing in what actually creates safe, healthy, and prosperous communities. This includes housing, health care, mental health, and substance abuse services. Also, community-based restorative forms of justice that address the root causes of harm and violence. For Baton Rouge, I have begun to tackle this complicated topic by working to address some of the root issues that can disrupt community safety, as well as looking at issues currently that strain our public safety resources. We must approach our goal of peace from all angles, and we have to do the work in order to see progress for our community, for our people. I've always held the belief that we are stronger together, and I have no doubt that that's a shared goal that we all have, a shared principle, shared belief. Our work to create a community of peace, prosperity, and progress is layered in a three-pronged approach. That includes law enforcement, mental health, and community engagement. Law enforcement, mental health, and community engagement. Growing and sustaining our police force and all city parishes departments remains my top priority as mayor. To be effective, we must have qualified, well-trained, and knowledgeable officers. In August, we raised police officers' pay by 7% across the board. This is a 13% pay increase for Baton Rouge Police Department officers over the past 2 years, something we did without a tax increase. And I will continue to fight for fair pay for the officers who protect and serve our communities, which also ensuring that they have the adequate equipment and technology to perform their duties effectively. Along with pay raises, my administration has invested more than $10 million in recent years for technology, equipment, recruitment, and training to enhance public safety, not only in the city of Baton Rouge, but throughout East Baton Rouge Parish. Throughout this process, I'm reminded that change does not come easy, and it definitely does not come overnight. This city is evolving day by day. So that means that we must evolve our strategies to real change in our communities. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "It isn't enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it, and it isn't enough to believe in it. One must work at it." I stand by this in our efforts to keep the residents and guests of East Baton Rouge Parish safe. Complementing law enforcement is mental health. Even before the global COVID-19 pandemic, we have been witnessing an increase of individuals experiencing a crisis with mental health and substance abuse. Over the last 2 years, the COVID-19 pandemic and the social disconnection that it fostered has only intensified these mental health problems. One of our leading mental health providers, the Bridge Center for Hope, opened in February 2021 and has served more than 3,700 people experiencing a mental health or substance abuse crisis in East Baton Rouge Parish. And it is imperative that they stay focused and remain efficient and effective, because they are very much needed. Additionally, we are developing the Bright Initiative, investing $1 million allocated by Congressman Troy Carter to provide trauma-informed therapy in neighborhoods with the greatest level of violence. This is not a new focus for my administration. Early on, we used the RECAST program, as you may recall, to address the trauma experienced by our community members and law enforcement personnel in the aftermath of the events of 2016. Our third pillar of public safety is community engagement. Baton Rouge is one of 16 cities in the White House Community Violence Intervention Collaborative. This collaborative empowers all of our local, state, and federal public safety partners to work together, create best practices that are fair and equitable, and influence existing systems to produce the best health and safety outcomes for individuals and families. Now, one of the key strategies is that community members must also play an important role, or as we like to say, putting the public back into public safety. In 2020, I dedicated $2.5 million of CARES Act funding to launch an initiative called Safe, Hopeful, Healthy Baton Rouge. This funding was used to develop systems and solutions to address violence as a public health epidemic. According to the CDC, the 3 leading causes of death in the United States for people ages 15 through 34 are unintentional injury, suicide, and homicide. The CDC also states by understanding the types of violence, we can take action to stop them before they start in our communities. Over the last 2 years, our team has established key programs like safe, hopeful, healthy classrooms in select high schools, and the Baton Rouge Community Street Team that puts high-risk interventionists and community navigators in 70802 and 70805 zip codes. The street team has hosted meetings with community stakeholders on a monthly basis. These conversations allow individuals and organizations who work closest with our most vulnerable neighborhoods to be at the forefront of creating violence intervention solutions. It was from those monthly meetings that we created the Summer of Hope. Our community partners requested a robust, boots-on-the-ground strategy to be proactive against traditional summer spikes of violence. Together, we created the initiative as a collective approach that built concentrated synergy around summer violence reduction efforts in Baton Rouge. We work to amplify positive activities throughout the summer and provide proactive mitigation and intervention in our most vulnerable neighborhoods. Now, when we first announced Summer of Hope, it was scheduled for 8 weeks, starting Memorial Day that weekend. Ultimately, we extended it to an additional 4 weeks to support the increased demand we saw from the community. Summer of Hope was a very intensive activation on our part and on the part of our dozens of partner organizations. All activities were broken down into 4 categories: street engagement programs to engage youth, joy and hope events, and conversations and discussions. Let me just say that I have to extend gratitude to the media, because before we started Summer of Hope, I convened a meeting with most members of the media. And I asked them to help us get the word out about Summer of Hope, to put our community leaders and organizations that were going to be involved in Summer of Hope in newspaper articles, on TV, on radio. And I have to say kudos to the media in our area, because everyone stepped up to the plate to assist in doing just that. So, over 12 weeks, we hosted, sponsored, and partnered in 125 events with 226 community organizations, resulting in key outcomes like the Mayor's Youth Workforce Experience, where Baton Rouge youth ages 14 through 21 completed 149,000 hours of work, learning, or volunteer experience. Community canvassers, people out canvassing, knocking on 75,000 doors in East Baton Rouge Parish, connecting residents with resources in areas that have seen historic disinvestment. We spoke with more than 33,000 community members and recorded their needs and suggestions to improve public safety in their neighborhoods. Comments included quality housing issues, childcare, essential need for youth like baby formula, diapers, and clean clothes, employment and education, behavioral and mental health, blight and neighborhood cleanliness, and lighting on our streets. So these canvas teams also followed up with phone calls to ensure that people were properly connected to resources they needed, like emergency rental assistance, where we have dispersed $47.5 million to date. Additionally, more than 2,000 pieces of art were created by elementary and youth through the LSU Museum of Art's Neighborhood Arts Project. Over the course of the 12 weeks, we also hosted weekly block parties every Saturday that connected communities like South Baton Rouge, Dixie, Fairfields, Glen Oaks, and Easytown. So now, what are the results of all of our work? How do these joy and hope events and community conversations affect violence and crime? Let's look at the numbers. I believe in data. If you compare this summer to last year, from May 27th to August 20th, we saw there was an improvement in 4 out of 5 categories of violent crime compared to the same time period last year. Actual homicides decreased by 25%, with fatal shootings decreasing by 15%. Non-fatal shootings also saw a small decrease of 1.3%. Now remember, this happened during our Summer of Hope. Stabbings decreased by 51%. Robberies decreased by 12%. Sexual offenses decreased by 6%. In assault and battery, we did see an increase of 6% during this summertime period compared to last year. Overall, the year-to-date calls for service to the Baton Rouge Police Department are down by 6%. Now, what this tells us is this level of intensive community engagement is having a positive impact on violence in our community. The work of community-based public safety is not a new phenomenon. However, it is important that we remain grounded in data and results. These findings, comparing the last 2 years, show that if there are 3 or more community engagement events in a given week, and even more so when there are 5 or more events, the percentage of violent crime typically falls below average. We saw this during our pilot in June 2021 through December 2021, and we're seeing similar results for Summer of Hope. Our hypothesis is, in concert with mental health and law enforcement efforts, when we have this level of community engagement, we see positive results to reduce violence. I'm sure you all remember writing your first research paper and the importance of the thesis or hypothesis. It helps us remain focused on data and measuring our outcomes. Our Fall Summer of Hope Impact Report will be available for the community this Wednesday at our website, brla.gov. And let me say in closing that we are committed to continuing our efforts to restore hope, because we now have the data to show that community engagement is effective in concert with law enforcement and mental health efforts. Last month, our Metro Council approved $10 million of American Rescue Plan funds for community-based public safety solutions, including $1.3 million in youth opportunities and employment programming, $5.5 million in community services, high-risk intervention, school-based outreach, behavioral health services, community revitalization, and summer response. $1 million for workforce reentry opportunities, $1 million for pre-trial diversion. All of this is still just the beginning. We are charting a course for our collective action to advance more effective, coordinated, and sustained efforts to prevent violence and ensure the safety of all Baton Rouge residents. Let it be known that Baton Rouge will keep mobilizing our all-hands-on-deck approach, one that will address the underlying factors that contribute to violence, build on community assets and our culture, and systemically apply data to ensure effective solutions. Thanks again for having me here today, and I look forward to your questions, and I also look forward to all of you remaining partners in the progress of Baton Rouge.
Of the violent crimes that went down, do you have any statistics or any insight on how the mental health aspect changed over the summer of hope? If there were more calls to Bridge City or more resources out there through this program?
We don't have the mental health stats to the level that you are asking, but I'm sure they're accessible. And I appreciate you asking that question, because that means we're going to now integrate those statistics at a higher level for that time period as well.
Were there any approaches that y'all took that didn't play out that you thought or didn't show the results as much as you were hoping for? And are there any approaches that did give results that you think could have some improvements? And what does that look like? The
question was about the approaches that we took. I believe I felt very positive about our approaches. It's very interesting. At the beginning of Summer of Hope, there were some individuals, I believe, who questioned whether it would be effective. Some people, I believe, just saw it through a lens of another program. But our approach that was contained in Summer of Hope was a very strategic approach. It wasn't just, we're throwing a party here, we're doing this, we're gonna put some people out there. Everything we did was intentional and strategic. And I believe that is why we saw the outcomes and results that we did. So I feel very good. I feel like it is a model that we indeed need to and will continue with.
Were there any lessons learned? Were there any of those approaches that you think could have some improvements made? And what does that look like?
Well, I believe that one of the improvements, you heard me give the statistics around the participation of individuals. I find that even with the coordinated effect of media outlets helping us get the word out, there are always some individuals who are left behind, who don't really know. For example, during our Summer of Hope programs and the block parties and the conversations, people were connected with resources. But there's still people who often say, we need more programs for our youth. Well, I just shared with you the money that we put behind programs, and we have a list of programs that most of the people who came to those events received. But for example, those that didn't come may not have received that information. So that is why it's incumbent upon us to continue the boots on the ground work to get the word out about resources and to use our model to continue to see violent crime decrease in our community.
Mayor, we have a question.
Yeah, he's had his hand up for a while.
Okay.
Go ahead.
To what extent does crime, Baton Rouge, crime rate, and the perception of crime impact economic development, and what you and your administration say to business prospects who ask you or raise concerns about crime?
The question was about the impact of crime on economic development, and you said something before that, but I think that was the gist of it, right? So, and what do I say to individuals? Well, I believe that's another stat that I'm going to bring to you, because so far we have not, just based on my frame of knowledge and reference and dealing with businesses that want to come to Baton Rouge and businesses that are indeed relocating. We have not seen that. We have not seen crime as a part of a major conversation when we're courting businesses or when they're considering coming to Baton Rouge. We have, I would probably say, and that's why I want to get the data to you, we've probably seen a sustainable sustainable economic development with companies coming to Baton Rouge in the same time period that I just mentioned, because my phone and my continues to ring about, can you come to this meeting? This person is interested in coming to Baton Rouge. Can you talk to this business group? So I would say that I would like to look at the data to affirm what I'm saying. And confirm it, but certainly based on my frame of reference in terms of what I know firsthand as the mayor president in my conversations, we've been on course with our economic development. Yes.
Mayor, you talked about the stats that have decreased over the summer in terms of violent crime. I'm wondering how significant you think the impact of just simply the pandemic and in the economy recovery, people being able to get back to work, has been on that decrease, that increase when the pandemic started, versus these efforts you've had, and how you plan to kind of continue these in a sort of different era of pandemic recovery rather than shutdowns, lockdowns, and so on.
The question was about the pandemic and how things have changed over now in this summer, where people are back to work and there's more activity, more. So. We do know that the stats tell us the behavioral health issues that were couched within the pandemic, right? And we do know that early on in the pandemic, resources were given through the CARES Act just to address crime, because there was an uptick in crime that was directly connected to the pandemic. I would say, and I have to confirm it with data, but I would certainly say that yes, we're still in a pandemic, but I would say the ease of the pandemic, the ease and the ability for people to get out more, to interact more, to have access more, I would say that indeed would probably be, if we look at the data, a contributor to the results that we saw as well this summer.
How you doing, Mayor? Do you know anything about the latest plans to move juvenile offenders to Jensen out of Baker at this time?
I haven't had an update on that, no.
Okay.
So I don't have an update for you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Obviously during the summer, it's great that there's more time, more resources to have these kind of programs. We can see these decreases. I know there's youth programs that will help while the children are in school. But are there any plans to kind of have rolling, ongoing programs to continue to address crime even outside of summer?
Absolutely. In fact, we most of our folks that were involved in the Summer of Hope, the folks who worked in the community, the folks from my office, all have concurred that we need to extend the Summer of Hope. I guess we need to call it something else, Fall Forward, I don't know what we're going to call it, but we're going to extend the same activities that we did during the summer. We want to take it and extend it through the fall. Yes?
Are there certain areas that are of highest priority that you guys are kind of like zoning in and focusing on?
Yeah, as I said earlier, we look at zip codes. This is a three-pronged approach, and of course we collaborate with our police department, and our focus was on the zip codes of 70805, 70802, and did we have one other? 70805 and 70802 were the primary ones that we focused on. Yes. And so let me just say that whatever we do, you know, I'm big on data, and you know, data certainly helps us identify our solution. Data helps us identify our problems and come up with solutions as well. So I say that to say we are not going to do anything arbitrarily. We'll have to look at, okay, where is the greatest need at? What does the data tell us in terms of where we need to go, where we need to be as we continue these activities?
Mayor, you talked about the importance of housing and affordable housing with this problem, and you also spoke about the 46 some odd million in emergency rental assistance that your administration has distributed in the parish. I'm wondering what the plan is, especially in this kind of new economic crisis we have with inflation. When that money runs out, what are we going to do as far as kind of keeping people from being evicted, being put on the street, and kind of continuing this move?
The question was, when we get beyond the money that has been allocated for programs like our rental assistance program, what are we going to do to help people have sustainable housing? That is the role of one of the roles of our Office of Community Development. So beyond the rental assistance program, there are other housing assistance programs that are part of our Office of Community Development. Now, in addition, we just hired someone, Marley Pittman, who has already started working on developing a citywide housing plan and initiative. And so you will be hearing more about that plan in the days to come. We've reviewed it, we're working on it, and we will be releasing it in days to come.
Any sneak peek of what it'll show?
No sneak peeks today.
Mayor,
Yes.
a little bit different track here, but I have a somewhat new
Welcome.
website. So it's interesting to see what's going on. It's sort of the summer of, it's a long program. So congratulations with that. But I was thinking more about Baton Rouge as a whole. And I was interested in sort of what your vision is of Baton Rouge, say 5 years from now, and how you see the city getting there.
Yeah, his question was, what is my vision for Baton Rouge and how do I see the city getting there? Well, I often say that as mayor president, I have to focus on a number of issues simultaneously, right? But casting a vision for the city is certainly something that I've done since I first started in office. My vision is it sounds simplistic, but when you put feet to it, when you stand it up, it means a lot of work is involved in getting there. It's a vision of having peace, prosperity, and progress for this entire city. Now, what does that look like? For progress, I'm working, and we've already seen that happen with conversations we've had with our young professionals. I want to see our young professionals consider Baton Rouge as home after they're educated at some of our institutions of higher education. And we are doing that by integrating their ideas into the work that we are doing in city parish government. We also want to see the infrastructure of Baton Rouge be sound and stable. And the work that we're doing now will take us way beyond 5 years, but it is certainly part of a vision of 5 years. Quality of place. That's very important for citizens. I don't know what city you lived in before, but certainly addressing issues around traffic, which we're doing, addressing issues around bike paths, which we're integrating, sidewalks. All this adds to the value of quality of place. And so these are just some of the things that we are focused on for taking Baton Rouge into the next 5 years. Actually, Baton Rouge has already made progress over the past 6 years from where we were. So I'm very optimistic about the future for the next 5 years.
If I can just follow up on that.
Yeah.
I wonder what city action looks like to you out there. I mean, I think back to, and I have to look at the number of cities, mostly Orlando and Denver, and some of those have been more successful than others. Chicago, for example, is a great example. I remember when Mayor Daley, Daley, wanted to do the Millennium Park. There was a lot of opposition to that. Yet, he had a vision of what that could do for the city. He went ahead with it, and it has really changed downtown Chicago. Do you have anything like that in your mind?
I do, but I can't tell you right now. This is just one of many conversations that I will have. And sometimes one of the things that I have learned as mayor president, let me give you an example. For years, people were talking about, Cortana Mall is so, I don't know if you know anything about the old Cortana Mall, because I don't know how long you've been here, but it was an empty mall. And people would talk about it day in and day out. And what about Cortana Mall? And why isn't anything happening there? And it's an area of disinvestment and, just negativism going on and on about Cortana Mall. Well, while all that conversation was going on about Cortana Mall, guess what I was doing, sir? I was having conversations about uplifting that disinvestment by having conversations with Amazon to make something happen there. But I couldn't say a word about it till we almost got to the point where it was a done deal. So I say that to say, yes, I'm very familiar with Millennium Park. I know I think you might know I'm from Chicago. I don't know if you know that or not. And I remember Mayor Daley too. That's we could spend a whole another conversation on Mayor Daley and the things about Chicago. But you're right, he did have a vision. And so, for example, one of the things some of the vision that I have, we're still working on it. I had a vision when I came in office for uplifting disinvested communities. We've had enormous success in North Baton Rouge in doing that. Just this morning, one of my council members is talking about a new music and arts program that can be placed in the Scotlandville area. So we work collaboratively to see these things happen. Listen, I'm the kind of person, and I don't know if you know this about me, but I always see the glass as half full and not half empty. I think Baton Rouge has a lot of assets to build upon. So we're focusing on those assets that we have to build upon them, and then we're integrating that with new ideas, innovative ideas, and creative ideas. Now, what I need you to do is stick around for a little while, because maybe you'll hear a little bit more about my vision at the beginning of the year when I give my State of the City address. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
you mentioned the Bridge Center earlier, and because of an incident that I experienced the other day where paramedics were called for a homeless man walking in the middle of South Acadian near Perkins, a fire truck and Baton Rouge paramedics came. And I asked the paramedic if they would be taking that individual to the Bridge Center, and she said, no, we're taking him to the hospital. I thought the purpose of the Bridge Center was to avoid jails and hospitals, and I wondered what the protocol was and what the data says about how successful that's been since I worked so hard on it when I was on the Metro Council.
Yeah. The question was about the Bridge Center and the protocol around the Bridge Center. It's my understanding, Representative Freiberg, that the Bridge Center is supposed to be a stabilization center, and it is supposed to help deter people from going to prison or the hospital. I believe that protocol is also connected to, I don't know if it's EMS. I think in your situation it was EMS who picked up the person. Yeah, so I don't know if it was a decision based on EMS or the Baton Rouge Police Department or Sheriff's Department, whoever was involved, that maybe that particular case was not applicable for the Bridge Center. But yes, the Bridge Center is supposed to be for those individuals, especially, I guess, that they don't see that has an extreme need, to go there for stabilization. That's always been my interpretation of the protocol, that would be the first place. I don't know particularly about that situation. Maybe there's some other dynamics involved that I don't know. And I certainly, because I'm not intimately involved with the Bridge Center on a regular basis, I would have to research some of the data that shows exactly how they have been successful over the past 2 years. And thank you for all your work that you did to make that happen. I think I don't see any more questions.
Mayor, you're using funds for a variety of different reasons, and apparently your program, in your mind, is different than Bobby Jindal's, who had the same goal of keeping our fellow citizens here. Every year for the last several years, our newspaper documents that 20,000 people or more per year have left the state. Do you see that the Biden administration's goals or funding are you in agreement with where the current administration on a national basis is in terms of helping you make Baton Rouge a better place and keep our citizens here?
The question was, am I in agreement in the work that the Biden administration has done to help? Let me just say this. It's that's a very easy question to answer. Yes. And I am a member of U.S. Conference of Mayors. I'm a member of the National League of Cities. I'm a member of Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative. And I believe that you will hear from mayors across America, Republican, Democrat, Independent, will all say that local government has been empowered through the resources that have been delegated and appropriated to cities across America, local government. I'll give you an example. All the things that I talked about, a lot of them were initiated with American Rescue dollars. Drainage initiatives that we have right now, we've been addressing some of our stormwater issues through American Rescue dollars. I want to say $58 million already we've invested to clean drains. We would not have normally had those type of resources in our budget. So I certainly believe that local government has been empowered by the Biden administration, and this mayor is certainly appreciative. Thank you all so much for having me here today.